JustinFREAKIN is a formidable voice in the culture.
Hey Justin, are you trolling?
This is the Troll Patrol, live with JustinFREAKIN.
Welcome to the Troll Patrol live. It's a freaking Sunday. As you can tell, we got the Halloween decorations up now. Welcome. It's a fucking scary episode of the fucking show. There's so much goddamn fucking news to cover. None of it's good. Seriously, I'm gonna try to get to it quickly tonight because there's so much fuck. I once again. I was like gonna try to make it a short one tonight and then end up with like 4 pages of notes because there's so much shit going on. DJ Dub, clinically. Libertad, good evening. Welcome. Forget the news gimp. Am I the news gimp in this scenario? Shit, I am the news gimp. We had the media winch and the news gimp. That sounds about right. Let me run down this shit. No news be good news indeed. Danielle, good evening. Let me run down this shit. There's so much to talk about. I bumped Morrissey. We'll do Morrissey tomorrow. I want to talk about Morrissey. Too much shit to talk about tonight. A dog is going to speedrun a game. I can't wait to tell you about that. That's the animal video at the end of the. I don't even know if we get a video, but we get pictures at least. Twitch apparently bleeding talent makes an announcement at TwitchCon to try to save their asses. We're going to talk about the Sniper Wolf doxing. Give you an update on the SAG-AFTRA strike with some comments from Fran Dresser, the president of SAG-AFTRA. But also, the Daily Wire is really upset about apparent guidelines for costumes issued by the SAG-AFTRA. Because that's what conservatives do. They bitch about everything. I would have never known this was a thing if the Daily Wire didn't go off on it. I got a hilarious photo from the Mike Pence campaign. We're gonna touch on Kenneth Cheesebro. We talked about it a little bit on stream on Friday when we were doing the House Speaker race. Speaking of the House Speaker race, Jim Jordan out. There's apparently been leaked audio of Donald Trump talking with a Australian billionaire. We're going to listen to that later on in the show. George Santos lied, and in other news, water is wet. There is a cop that is in prison. He's asking to be released because he's got cancer. Fuck him. Fuck him is what I say. Here is your meme of the day. I feel bad about this one. I really do. But it's not going to stop me from showing it to you. Paris Hilton doing a photo shoot with the star of Family Guy, Stewie Griffith. These nuts. Good evening, my friend. It says more. More. I'm sorry, it's wrong. It's wrong. Fucking just... Just the picture in and of itself is kind of like a meme, isn't it? She's got a bunny behind her. At least it's not an octopus. Apparently that's a... I heard she had a natural birth. So if so... What a trooper. Yes! That's the real pic! It's kind of like my Charlie Kirk drop. Did I fuck with his forehead?
You live in sexual
Did I make his
anarchy?
face smaller? I think this is the actual photo. I shouldn't be. All babies are ugly. Let's go ahead and put that out there. Except me, I was a really cute baby. But like most babies are ugly. Yeah. I can tell you as a former portrait studio photographer that baby is at least 3 or 4 months old, because we used to have to like we had like a special chair to sit them in. Babies are indeed aliens. That is Paris Hilton. I think she's some kind of a celebrity. I don't really know. I only know her from the episode Stupid Spoiled Whore Video Playset. The South Park episode Stupid Spoiled Whore Video Playset. It's the one where Mr. Slave puts her up his ass, and then she has to do a Lemmy Winks. God damn. As I said, it's a jam-packed show. It's a jam-packed show tonight. I'm gonna go ahead and cut it there. And with the rundown, we're just gonna get straight into it. I'll go ahead and tell you the first part of the show is Israel, and it's brutal. The next section of the show is crime, and it's brutal. So if you don't really wanna be here for all that bummer shit, give us about an hour, and then we'll probably be making fun of Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump. And we'll get into the bullshit part of the show. But it's going to be heavy for a little bit. I'm sorry. A lot of shit going on. But there is a motherfucker we're going to have to make fun of here at the beginning. Warlord, good evening. We'll get to that. We'll get to that here in a second. Hope everyone enjoys the Halloween decorations. I was going to put them up last week. Warlord said no. Warlord vetoed it. So, 2 American hostages have been freed by Hamas.
Morning, we are hearing from the relatives of those 2 Americans held hostage by Hamas for 2 weeks. ABC's Britt Clennett joins us now from Haifa, Israel, with what we're learning about that release. Good morning to you, Britt.
Good morning.
Good morning, Gio. Yeah, that's right. The family of Judith and Natalie Runnan have spoken up, saying their focus is now helping to return all the others still held captive, including their 8 relatives, and Israel saying it's notified the families of the now 212 hostages still held in Gaza. This morning, new details in the astonishing release of 2 Americans held hostage by Hamas for nearly 2 weeks. 17-year-old Natalie Runnan and her 59-year-old mother Judith, clearly in shock in this Hamas video as they are handed over to Red Cross workers in Gaza Friday.
We were able to drive our Red Cross Land Cruisers. We picked up the 2 women and we drove them to the border and released them into Israeli hands.
President Biden speaking to the Runnans on the phone, telling them he plans to retrieve others still
I've got that video.
of Hamas.
I just want to say thank you for all your services for Israel.
Well, I look, that's been long serving. I'm just delighted we're able to get you out. We've been working on it a long time. We're gonna get them all out, God willing.
their family overjoyed that the two will be heading back to the US. Judith's cousin saying, "The relief we feel now over the release of Judith and Natalie is far beyond what words can describe." The Rannan family now turning their focus to the other roughly 210 hostages, which include several Americans, saying in a statement, "We remain entirely focused on the efforts to secure the return of our 8 other family members that remain captive in Gaza." Adding, "We will work around the clock with the other families of those held hostage until each and every one of them is back home." Families around the world watching, seeing a glimmer of hope for their own missing loved ones upon Natalie and Judith's release.
It's giving me a hope that my son Omer will be out as soon as possible.
Now, we know that Qatar has played a key role in securing the release on Friday of those 2 Americans, and now the families of the others hoping it will continue to act as a critical mediator. Janae?
So many still need help getting out. Britt, thank you.
Well, hey there.
Yeah, we have a confirmation on the actual number of hostages, but before we go there, we saw the families thank Joe Biden for his help in freeing them. I absolutely believe our State Department played a key role in getting them freed. Someone who I'm pretty certain didn't play a key role in getting the hostages freed was internet grifter Sean King, who apparently has claimed credit for it, despite the fact that the families say they have no idea who the motherfucker even is. Dozens of us worked frantically behind the scenes to help make this possible, according to Sean King. Hamas put out a statement on its Telegram channel ahead of the release in response to Qatari efforts. Al-Qassam brigades released 2 American citizens, a mother and her daughter, for humanitarian reasons and to prove to the American people and the world that the claims made by Biden and his fascist administration are false and baseless. King's claim on releasing the hostages: Hamas just freed the teenager Natalie Rannan and her mother. I'm grateful. As I said last week, Natalie and her family have been supporters of mine and protested police violence in America alongside us. I'm also thankful for the Qatari government for helping to negotiate this. Dozens of us worked frantically behind the scenes to make this possible. I spoke to Natalie's family this afternoon, and they are anxiously awaiting more updates. King apparently also shared an alleged statement from Ben Rannan, the brother of Natalie Rannan, the young hostage that was freed from Hamas. Ben, a longtime supporter of mine, was the American spokesperson for the family and first reached out to me for help on October 9th. A community note said that the Rannan family confirmed they don't know who Sean King is. That was the statement from the supposed statement from Ben Rannan. Sean King, the supposed activist, who's a grifter. He is an honest to God grifter on the left. King also claimed that in a phone conversation I just had with the family of Natalie Rannan, they relayed to me that because I was involved with her release, that Israel's pressured them to distance themselves from me. They also relayed that they do not feel safe in Israel right now as a result. Wow. One user wrote that one of the biggest anti-Semites, Sean King, now I don't know if he's actually an anti-Semite, who calls IDF soldiers murderers, I mean, that's true, wrote on an October 10th post that he is doing everything he can according to the request of the family of these hostages. He also mentioned in a post that the kidnapped support him and his opinions, and that they are in Israel to criticize Israel for the injustice. Yesterday, he thanked Hamas for the release and took credit for it. IDF do be murdering. But apparently, the family denies knowing who the fuck he is. And now he's like, oh, they're being pressured to distance themselves from me. Bullshit. While we're on the subject of Hamas and hostages, Hamas says that Israel has declined to take 2 more hostages that it intended to release. And I have confirmed that this is true because this is New Delhi TV where I'm reading from. Al Jazeera also reporting this. They said they have confirmed with an Israeli spokesperson. Abu Ubadi, the spokesman for the Is el-Din al-Qassam brigades, said in a brief statement that it informed Qatar on Friday that Hamas's intention to release 2 more prisoners. Israel on Saturday described it as propaganda. Abu Abadi, spokesman for Hamas's armed wing, said it informed Qatar of the group's intention to release. Qatar was the dude from Devil's Rejects. That was Captain Spaulding's cousin. So it was going to release 2 additional people on Friday, the same day it freed Americans Judith Ty Ronan and daughter Natalie. A later statement, the Hamas spokesman said they were ready to free 2 other people on Sunday using the same procedures. The Palestinian group captured 210 people during its deadly assault in southern Israel on October 7th. Qatar, which helped mediate Friday's release, had no immediate response. A brief statement, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office said, "We will not refer to false propaganda by Hamas." Israel facing pressure from the U.S. to not go ahead with a ground invasion, and from the international community to continue negotiating for hostages. Pressure grows on Israel to negotiate. As we read the statement from the Prime Minister calling it propaganda that Hamas was going to release hostages, pressure grows on Israel to negotiate the release of Gaza hostages, families given a glimmer of hope by the release of 2 U.S. citizens. Pressure has intensified on Israel to negotiate the release of more than 200 people held by Palestinian militants in Gaza. Israeli military spokesperson announced on Sunday that more than 212 people were held in Gaza as officials work to identify and locate those missing after a deadly incursion by Hamas. On Sunday evening, a group of families of those held hostage in Gaza met with Israeli President Isaac Herzog at his residence in Jerusalem for almost 2 hours, as crowds gathered outside singing songs of mourning. "Don't forget us," one woman called the crowd, a sea of yellow ribbons, Israeli flags and signs reading, "Bring them home." The message from the president is that the whole leadership came together to resolve this crisis. This is according to Ayel Eshel, the father of the 19-year-old Ronnie Eshel, who was serving at a military base near the border with Gaza. "I want to tell the only person that can resolve this, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. You recruited our girls. Our request is you bring them home. All of them." Pressure comes from inside and outside of Israel. Many of the hostages were citizens of or dual nationals of countries around the world, including Israel's closest allies. At least some of the 10 U.S. citizens still unaccounted for after the October 7th attack are believed to be being held in Gaza. There are also 17 Thais among the hostages and 8 Germans. 7 British nationals and 7 French citizens are still classified as missing, and some of them are believed to be hostages too. So far, 2 U.S. citizens, Judith and her daughter Natalie, whom we've covered, have been released after mediation from Qatari officials. Members of the International Committee of the Red Cross escorted the pair out of Gaza late on Friday night, before both joined hands with Gal Hirsch Israel's recently appointed focal point for hostages and missing people. The pair were then accompanied to an Israeli military base where they were reunited with their families. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said he had spoken to the two freed hostages and described them as strong of mind, strong of spirit. But he told NBC News there remains many others, and we're hopeful that more are released. But the bottom line is this: they need to be released, each and every one of them, now unconditionally. CNN reported on Sunday that the Biden administration had pressed Israel to delay the ground assault on Gaza to allow time for the release of more hostages and the delivery of more aid to the besieged enclave. So weird that they're, having to pressure Israel to not go forward with the ground invasion because they're worried about the hostages that Israel is using as pretext for the ground invasion. So the U.S. pushing for more aid to the Gaza Strip, but the border remains closed. The crossing that would allow aid remains closed. The Gaza-Egyptian border. Civilians with foreign citizenship, and many of them Palestinians with dual nationalities, waited for the closed Rafah border crossing for a third day. This Swedish passport holder said his embassy told him to return to the crossing, but after waiting for hours, he turned back toward Gaza. We pled with the Egyptian government to look at us with compassion because, frankly, we're in a very dangerous place. There is shelling all around us, and even if I wanted to return home, I would be risking my life. God willing, there will be solutions. The shelling is right next to us now, if you can hear it. We do hear it. Justin, good evening. On the Egyptian side, a convoy of trucks carrying aid for Gaza residents was waiting to be let through. U.S. hoped to help reach an agreement to let aid in with President Joe Biden set to head to the region on Wednesday. And lobbing bombs is what they're doing, trust me. You don't actually have to trust me. I've got the proof. Israel killing multiple families in Gaza. At least 9 families bombed to death in central Gaza by the IDF. This house in Deir al-Balah, central Gaza, has been reduced to rubble by an Israeli airstrike. 9 members of one family living there were killed. 3 more people were killed in a neighboring home. Those who died were mostly women and children. And nearby cemetery preparations were being made for burial. Israel says it's targeting Hamas hideouts, infrastructure, and command centers in Gaza in retaliation for the militant group's attack on October 7th. But indiscriminately killing women and children. Weird. Hamas doesn't control the West Bank. The West Bank is under the control of the Palestinian Authority, but for some reason, Israel is striking a mosque in the West Bank. What? Huh? Israeli aircraft struck a compound beneath a mosque in occupied West compound beneath a mosque. I don't know if I believe that. Occupied West Bank early on Sunday that the military said was being used by militants to organize attacks. Palestinian medics said at least 1 person was killed. The Israeli airstrike is at least the second in recent days to hit the West Bank, where violence has surged since Hamas gunmen from Gaza carried out a deadly October 7th rampage. Israel said the compound beneath the Al-Ansar Mosque. I do believe, isn't bombing churches and places of worship a war crime? In the Jenin refugee camp, they're bombing a refugee. It says confirmed by the IDF or confirmed by Israel. Always want to put an asterisk. I don't take at face value anything Israel says. And as long as they are keeping the international community and humanitarian groups out of Gaza, they are keeping journalists out of Gaza, I don't think we can believe anything they fucking say. Let's hear from a man who has a good head on his shoulders. They call him the Bernie Sanders of Britain. His name is Jeremy Corbyn.
I am disgusted at the British political establishment. What they've done is said we will support Israel without any conditions, without any caveat, we will support them, knowing full well that 4,000 people have died in Gaza in the past 2 weeks. 1,000 died in Israel as a result of the attacks in Negev. That was wrong, absolutely wrong, and I totally condemn.
He condemn.
But the assault on Gaza and the deaths that are going on, and the stories I'm picking up are just heartrending. I've friends in Gaza I've known for many years. They're just sending me messages of total desperation. Artists whose work we'll never see again. Families whose all the children killed by Israeli bombardment. And the strategy of driving the Gaza population further and further south, building up this massive force of people at the Rafah crossing. Whatever Egypt says, at some point, those people are going to cross. They're going to be in the Sinai. And are we going to see the creation of another Gaza in the Sinai? This is appalling. And today, finally, after a lot of good work by the World Health Organization and the UN, and many others, the crossing at Rafah was open for the vehicles to come in, 20 of them. 20 vehicles for the desperate needs of 2 million people. There are more trucks delivering food to supermarkets on the Holloway Road in my constituency every day than there are for 2 million people in Gaza. It's not even 5% of the needs. And water is now so short that the average person in Gaza, if they're lucky, gets 1.5 litres a day for everything. That is what is now happening. And we are bystanders and observers. All we can do is raise our voice here. And I was just beyond disgusted when Britain abstained at the UN on a call for a ceasefire.
The US did as well.
Biden instructed the US delegate to veto the majority decision, which was to call for a humanitarian pause. And then both Biden and Sunak went to Tel Aviv to say we fully support you. Support what? The killing of civilians, the occupation, the war crimes, the illegality of it. But you know what? In this pretty desperate time, it's turned opinion round. The size of demonstrations in Morocco, in Egypt, all over the Middle East, and even a demonstration in the middle of the Capitol in Washington in support of Palestinians. The Palestinian cause will never go away.
Obviously, over the last fortnight, we've seen large parts of the media misrepresent the views of lots of people within the pro-Palestinian movement, including some of your own views. What do you think of the media's response to what's going on?
Ida, good evening.
Well, I think the media response is pretty limited and pretty poor, to be quite honest. I have watched quite a lot of different global channels. The one that seems to be trying the hardest to give realistic reporting on the ground is Al Jazeera. And I hear they're now threatened with being banned from reporting from Israel. Al Jazeera have done well, But I think the endless idea of somehow or other balance and there's an equality between Israel and Palestine, no, there isn't. The West Bank is under occupation. The West Bank has 500,000 settlers placed there by Israel. Gaza is under siege and isn't even managed by the administration in the West Bank anyway. There isn't an equality. What we're just seeing
mitochondria
is a very powerful, highly militarized nation steamrolling the Palestinian people.
Why don't you think we've seen more MPs come out in support of Palestine over the past couple of weeks?
Cowardice.
Question. I find it very disappointing that today there's a number of us here. A number of MPs are here today, Claudia Webb, myself, John McDonnell, Absana Begum, and we're making our presence and voice heard. But I say to my colleagues, think about this. There's war crimes being committed. Yes, the invasion of Ukraine by Russia is wrong. The occupation of Palestine is also wrong.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jeremy Corbyn. The political class of the UK making sure that that man is as marginalized as possible. Slandering him with accusations that he's an anti-Semite, as many politicians here in the U.S. have also been slandered as anti-Semites. Rashida Tlaib currently being slandered and not getting much support from her Democratic colleagues. It's disgusting. But anti-Semitic attacks are also fucking disgusting. And following the stabbing death of a Palestinian boy, last week? I hate to have to tell you about another stabbing death. This coming a woman who was the president of a local synagogue fatally stabbed. Happened in Detroit.
Investigation into the death of a synagogue official found stabbed to death outside her home. ABC's Alex Prochet joins us with more on what we're learning this morning. Alex, good morning to you. There aren't many details about this.
No, Janae, there aren't. But Samantha Wool, the board president of this Detroit area synagogue, brutally murdered, and police acknowledge that her death is raising many questions. This morning, shock and hurt in this Detroit community over news that a popular president of a local synagogue was brutally murdered. According to Detroit police, Samantha Wool was found around 6:30 a.m. Saturday outside her home. The 40-year-old stabbed multiple times.
I'm just numb at this moment. You know, Sam was such an amazingly kind person. I can't imagine anything like this happening to her.
Wool had led the Isaac A. Grease Synagogue in downtown Detroit since last year. She previously worked as a staffer for Congresswoman Elisa Slotkin and on the re-election campaign for Attorney General Dana Nessel, both now mourning her death. The Congresswoman writing, "She's heartbroken." The Attorney General posting, "Sam was as kind a person as I've ever known." So far, police have not identified a suspect or possible motive, and authorities have not connected her death to tension spilling over from the war between Israel and Hamas. Detroit's police chief saying in a statement, "Understandably, the crime leaves many unanswered questions. It's important that no conclusion be drawn until all of the available facts are reviewed."
She was a huge part of, the revitalization that's happening.
So I can't confirm this, but I've heard that she was a pro-Palestinian demonstrator. That she was a Jewish person who advocated for the rights of all people, including Palestinians. So it could be anti-Semitism. It could be fucking an attack because of her support for Palestine. It could go either way on this one.
In Detroit, and I think our community really lost a truly beautiful soul.
Now, again, police are urging the community not to jump to conclusions as this investigation plays out. But the reason for that is there's been a rise in anti-Semitism and Islamophobia across the country. Over the weekend, there was a bomb threat at a synagogue in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And earlier this month, a 6-year-old boy in Illinois was brutally stabbed to death. His mother seriously injured, allegedly attacked by their landlord simply because they are Muslim. Now, in this Detroit case, the FBI and state police are now assisting in that investigation. Wait.
Truly disturbing cases, Alex. Thank you.
Well, hey there, GMA fans.
Shut up, Robin. Meanwhile, a manhunt is underway in Maryland. A judge murdered by apparently a man that they think the judge presided over over his divorce proceeding.
Tonight with a manhunt for a suspected killer that's garnering national attention. Thanks for staying up with us. I'm Mauricio Casillas. Multiple law enforcement agencies are posted up in Williamsport, Maryland, searching for the man accused of gunning down a local judge. The search intensified today when a nearby resident spotted Pedro Argote's car. You could see the silver Mercedes tucked deep in the woods near Williamsport in this Chopper 4 video. It's been a tough effort for Washington County deputies to recover that car, and they don't know when Argote may have ditched it. At this hour, we can tell you multiple law enforcement agencies, including the Maryland State Police and U.S. Marshals Service.
God, is that video of Gaza? Look at this place. It didn't say where in Maryland, did it? Is that Baltimore? Williamsport, Maryland.
Have boots on the ground searching for Argote. Investigators believe he shot and killed County Circuit Judge Andrew Wilkinson outside his own home in Hagerstown on Thursday night. News 4's Dominique Moody joins us live now at the Washington County Sheriff's Office. Dominique, you can tell us that this manhunt has really shocked the small town, right?
Yeah, Mauricio, I think that's the best way to describe it. Washington County Sheriff described this as a nationwide and multiple agency search to try to find the suspect. Of course, like you mentioned, this entire event has rocked several communities here.
An all-hands-on-deck approach to find this man, 49-year-old Pedro Argote, the hunt beginning late Thursday night and extending into the weekend, after investigators say Argote shot and killed Washington County Judge Andrew Wilkinson at his Hagerstown home. On Saturday morning, Washington County's Sheriff's Office said the car Argote was driving was found in the woods in Williamsport by a resident, leading to a massive police presence in and around the small town.
We're going to catch this guy. It's just a matter of time. We have to clear this area to make sure. It's a pretty big area that we're looking at.
Chopper 4 caught video of the car Argote was driving near a canal in Williamsport. It also showed the scope of the remote area. Investigators were tasked with looking through it.
It's hundreds of acres in there that, within a 10-minute walk, you can be in a lot of places down there, especially with the canal.
U.S. Marshals deemed Argote armed and dangerous and urged the community to contact police if they know about his whereabouts or see him. They also announced a list of places they believe the suspected shooter could be heading, including New York.
He looks like what Paris Hilton's big-headed baby will grow up to look like.
They also announced a list of places they believe the suspected shooter could be heading, including New York, Florida, Indiana, and North Carolina as possible locations. Judge Andrew Wilkinson was presiding over a divorce case between Argote and his wife this week. Police believe Wilkinson was shot and killed at his home in Hagerstown Thursday evening, and that it was a targeted attack because Wilkinson
discount Bill 9
of the couple's children to Argote's wife. Those living nearby say they're still shaken knowing something like this.
Dude, there could be like some of that men's right activism seeping into this like incel looking motherfucker.
It happened so close to home.
The police everywhere, and this isn't like, a small town when you don't see this.
Even though this probably was just a personal thing, I think it would be a natural thing to do to just protect everybody.
A community trying to make sense of what happened as the search for the alleged shooter, Pedro Argote, continues.
And the sheriff says the number one priority is protecting the public and bringing Argote to justice. Mauricio, back to you.
All right, Dominic Moody live for us in Williamsport. A very long search continues. Thanks so much. And our crews will be working for you as this manhunt intensifies. Once again, Washington County deputies confirm they'll be searching through all hours of the day and night until they find Pedro Argote. You can stay with us on air and online for our continuing coverage. As always, you can find breaking news updates by downloading our NBC Washington app.
Remember, there is a manhunt going on in East Tennessee where I went to college. I mentioned it the other day. This dude wanted for... They haven't charged him with the gazillion rapes he committed, but they did charge him with possession of child pornography. I am 100% convinced that the cops helped him escape. 100, like there is no, the cops protected him. Remember, this is the town I went to college in. I know for a fact that the cops protected him for years. I think the cops also helped him escape.
We're on day 4 of the search for Sean Williams. Williams escaped during the transport to Greene County. U.S. Marshals say the investigation of his escape and whereabouts remains ongoing. Williams is a former downtown Johnson City business owner. He faces several federal and state charges. He's also the central figure in 2 federal lawsuits that have been filed against the city of Johnson City, its police department, and several officers. Williams was being transported from a Kentucky correction center to federal court in Greenville Wednesday after his appointed lawyer filed a motion last Friday to withdraw from the case. U.S. Marshal for East Tennessee David Jolly told News Channel 11 that on-ground and aerial searches were not planned for today. Jolly says that they've received no credible leads for a couple of days, and Williams could very well be out of the Greenville area. He says that residents still should remain on alert and keep their eyes open for appearances on properties or farms. In an email to News Channel 11, Jolly said in part, quote, Williams is still in the judicial process, which he's trying to avoid by escaping, and we want him back in that process to face those charges. Those charges aren't going away, and neither are we, end quote.
Yeah, why don't you check the fucking Johnson City Police Department? That could be a good hiding place for him. I am pretty certain that the feds know. Let me show you the statement from the other day. I'm pretty sure the feds believe what I believe based on the statement they released. This was right after it happened. The circumstances of the escape are under full investigation, and anyone who may have assisted Williams or was negligent in their duties that may have facilitated the escape will be held responsible. Please get the Justice Department in here. Come down on that fucking police department. It's infuriating to me. They said he used a paperclip to remove his shackles. He had arm and leg shackles. Also wrap around the waist. They said he used a paperclip to remove the shackles and then kicked out a window, and that none of the officers transporting him heard it. And that he wasn't in the van when they got to the courthouse. Bull fucking shit. Bull fucking shit. Do not believe it. Also, Snicks, good evening. They said he kicked out a window, but the officers transporting him didn't hear or see it. Bull fucking shit. They are lying. Sorry. It's so upsetting. Yeah, they supposedly found the paperclip. So, dash cam video has been released showing a man driving through a parade in Portland, Oregon. Not exactly sure when this happened, if it mentions it in the story.
Tonight, new harrowing footage of road rage and a close call that sent families at a parade in Portland running. Dashcam footage obtained by NBC affiliate KGW submitted by prosecutors as evidence in court, providing several views inside suspect Sidney Metcham's pickup truck.
Oh my God.
In the video, you see Metcham frustrated, stuck in traffic due to road closures clearing the way for Portland's Grand Floral Parade. His anger boiling over.
They got it all blocked out. The Lloyd Center exit, the Convention Center exit, every motherfucking exit. You
God damn, dude.
Metcham then plowing through traffic cones and blowing past crews blocking a highway exit ramp. Bystanders sent running as the Chevy Avalanche lumbers onto the parade route. Thankfully, no one was injured.
We would have been the first victim that he would have hit.
Watching the parade that day with his family, a ref Muhammad Ali.
Go, get him, get him.
He took this video of the chaos unfolding before him.
Is this guy going for a rampage? Is he going to be killing families, at the parade, or is he just angry at the blockage, or what's going on?
A police motorcycle and an unmarked police car unable to stop the vehicle as it exited the parade route. Sidney Metcham eventually parked his vehicle and was later arrested.
Page 18, line 2, last name Metcham.
Charged with 38 counts, including attempted assault and reckless endangerment. He has pleaded not guilty. Residents in Portland still shaken by this close call.
I know it's pretty scary. It definitely makes me doubt what we're going to be doing, in the future. Are we going to be continuing attending these parades and events in the city, or are we going to just stay home, watch it on TV?
I would assume if he was on drugs, he would have been a lot more chill. God damn.
According to police, he was driving on a suspended license and didn't have insurance. Court documents show Metcham is from Portland and has been in and out of prison and juvenile detention since he was 15 on sex abuse convictions against minors. No trial date has been set for these latest charges.
Lock him the fuck up. I want to see this again. The fuck?
New harrowing footage of road rage and a close call that sent families at a parade in Portland running. Dashcam footage obtained by NBC affiliate KGW submitted by prosecutors as evidence.
Testosterone is a hell of a drug.
Inside suspect Sidney Metcham's pickup truck.
Oh my God.
In the video, you see Metcham.
And you gotta love that he recorded the fucking evidence that's gonna put him away. You pled not guilty, eh?
Frustrated, stuck in traffic due to road closures clearing the way for Portland's Grand Floral Parade. His anger boiling over.
They got it all blocked out. The Lloyd Center exit, the Convention Center exit, every motherfucking exit. You
Flash, good evening.
Metcham then plowing through traffic cones and blowing past crews blocking a highway exit ramp. Bystanders sent running as the Chevy Avalanche lumbers onto.
Is he listening to country music? What is the music playing in the background? Fucking wild. I would be pissed off if I was hearing country music as well. Not good driving music. Have you guys ever seen Final Destination 2? If you have, you probably know the exact story I'm getting ready to tell you. Because ever since I saw that fucking movie, this has been the thing that has scared the shit out of me more than anything. I will not ride behind a log truck.
Investigating the death of two cyclists who were hit by lumber that fell from a flatbed truck in Napa County. Officers say they were called to Silverado Trail in Oak Knoll, just north of downtown Napa, at around 11 this morning. The CHP says a load of lumber fell right off of that flatbed truck, hitting a 50-year-old man and a woman in her 40s, both of whom were on bicycles. The man was pronounced dead at the scene. The woman was transported to the hospital where she later died. The driver of the truck remained at the scene and is cooperating with the investigation.
Apparently it was like 2x4s or 4x4s, lumber that had already been cut. In the movie, it's fucking logs. I bet you're right, clinically. Loose load hauling is responsible for more deaths than we realize. Yeah, I do not ride behind log trucks. Final Destination fucked me up. 2. It's from Final Destination 2. Final Destination 1 was the airplane, right? I thought about making this the animal story for the night, but I think it's I don't think it's a heartwarming animal story. A 7-year-old encounters a massive bear while riding his scooter. First of all, I want to say that the headline is wrong. That is not a massive bear. That's just like a little, maybe a teenage black bear or something. It looks massive next to the kid. Sure it's massive compared to a 7-year-old, but that's not a massive bear.
It's an epic showdown between boy and beast. 7-year-old Huxley Hardy Penner comes face to face with a black bear while riding a scooter. Watch as the bear approaches the boy, heading right towards him in broad daylight.
Heading right for us.
Huxley stares the animal down, looking directly at him until the bear stops dead in his tracks. No one could predict what would happen next. Then, out of nowhere, Huxley's neighbor appears. With his arms raised high, the neighbor turns into a superhero and fearlessly approaches the animal, engaging the bear in a heart-stopping game of hide-and-seek. Watch as the neighbor relentlessly pursues the bear from behind the car until the animal finally gets spooked and goes scurrying away. Crisis averted. We spoke with Huxley and his mom Brittany about the grisly encounter, which took place in British.
Everybody did the right thing here. I think the kid did the right thing by staying still, and then the neighbor trying to make himself as big as he could be, and probably making a lot of noise to scare the bear. Like, this is just like a baby bear. I'd probably kind of pet it. Like, I'd probably pet the motherfucker. It's cute.
A heart-stopping game of hide-and-seek. Watch as the neighbor relentlessly pursues the bear from behind the car until the animal finally gets spooked and goes scurrying away. Crisis averted. We spoke with Huxley and his mom Brittany about the grisly encounter, which took place in British Columbia, Canada.
We've had conversations about being aware. Hey, be aware of your surroundings. If there is a bear and you're not with an adult, be calm.
Wildlife experts stress that staying calm and looking big and overpowering are key responses when confronting a bear in the outdoors. So, cheers to Huxley and his neighbor for their perfect response under pressure.
I think most adults, even in that moment, would have perhaps panicked or run away, or, not everybody knows what to do there. So I'm super proud of him.
And off Huxley goes on his scooter to his next adventure.
He's just a little baby bear. He just wanted to play. All right, one last story to piss you off tonight, and then we'll get to politics and bullshit. I said about an hour. That was perfect. Perfect. The bear walked the fuck on by and you smoked your joint. Hell yeah. You think it's a decent sized bear? Like it didn't look that big. You said 300 pounds and like 150, 200 because like it looked like a baby bear. Everybody was here the other day when we watched that dude fucking like shoo the bear off from the campsite, right? That one was a lot bigger than the one we just watched, but it was like a teenage bear. It as well wasn't as big. But also, I'm not a bear expert. Gotta look for the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. One more story piss you off, or I don't know. Maybe I don't know how you're gonna react to this. A former gun trace task force member, Daniel Herschel, has asked for release from prison because he's got cancer. A new filing, Daniel Herschel has asked a federal court for compassionate release from prison. Herschel has been diagnosed with cancer and has 18 months to live. Herschel was one of 8 members of the Baltimore Police Department. I know I say this about every police department, but one of the most corrupt police departments in the country. He was a member of the Baltimore Police Department, federally indicted on charges including racketeering, robbery, extortion, and overtime fraud as part of his work with the corrupt Gun Trace Task Force. Herschel was accused of stealing thousands of dollars from people, some of whom were innocent civilians. If I remember correctly, this task force had to be disbanded. It was so fucking corrupt. And that they had even used protests against the police as subterfuge to rob pharmacies and sell drugs. Herschel is now 53 years old, according to court documents. Herschel was diagnosed with metastatic prostate cancer, which has spread to lymph nodes, liver, both lungs, one rib, and his pelvis. I hope it's painful. The chief medical officer at the U.S. Medical Center for Federal Prisons in Springfield, Missouri, concluded that Mr. Herschel's life expectancy is less than 18 months. Herschel is asking for a release plan that would allow him to receive palliative medical care during home detention in Baltimore, according to court documents. Herschel would stay with family members, according to the court filing. Herschel's time with Gun Trace Task Force was chronicled in the HBO miniseries We Own This City. I've never heard of that, and now I'm interested to go watch it. Speaking of shitty people and their health troubles, check out that segue. HBO documentaries are the fucking best. Speaking of shitty people and their health troubles, Mitch McConnell says he's healthy.
Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell has not done many interviews this year, but he invited us to Capitol Hill Friday to talk about President Biden's request to Congress for more than $100 billion in aid for Ukraine, Israel and U.S. border security.
I'm not high enough for this shit.
Our conversation began.
We have big power competition from China, from Russia, and we still have terrorism problems, as the Israelis have certainly experienced in a brutal way in the last week. So I think it requires a worldwide approach rather than trying to take parts of it out.
Mitch McConnell's Mr. Worldwide.
The Chinese and the Russians said they're now friends forever. Iranian drones are being used in Ukraine and against the Israelis.
There's resistance among some Republicans, including here in the Senate, about bundling things together. Is it possible to pass Ukraine aid if it's not tied to Israel?
I just think that's a mistake. I mean, I know there are some Republicans in the Senate and maybe more in the House that think Ukraine is somehow different. I view it as all interconnected.
And you've said that you believe there is enough oversight of aid.
It absolutely is all interconnected. It's all feeding the defense contractors, making that line go up, making those money printers go brrr.
To Ukraine. Why hasn't that persuaded some members of the Republican caucus?
If you look at the Ukraine assistance, let's talk about where the money is really going. A significant portion of it's being spent in the United States, in 38 different states, replacing the weapons that we sent to Ukraine with more modern weapons. So we're rebuilding our industrial base.
He just came right out and said it. He just came right out and said it.
Come on, man.
That's what President Biden's seeking to do.
It's correct. No Americans are getting killed in Ukraine. We're rebuilding our industrial base. The Ukrainians are destroying the army of one of our biggest rivals. I have a hard time finding anything wrong with that. I think it's wonderful that they're defending themselves. And also,
your donors are making money. It's weakening Russia. Yeah. I bet you find nothing wrong with it.
The notion that the Europeans are not doing enough. They've done almost $90 billion. They're housing a bunch of refugees who escaped. I think our NATO allies in Europe have done quite a lot.
You sound like you have a lot in common with President Biden in his worldview, based on what you just laid out.
Well, not on the domestic side, but on this issue that we're discussing today, we're generally in the same place.
On the issue of Israel, that does seem to be a unifying issue for many Republicans. And I want to ask you about this $10 billion request the president is making. Do you think there need to be any provisions in there that would account for the risk of human rights violations in Gaza?
Well, we want to make sure we're not sending money to Hamas, I can tell you that. But there are
why Israel does
humanitarian needs for the people in Gaza who are not Hamas, who've been thrown under the bus by what Hamas did, innocent people. But we want to be careful about how the money is spent, be sure it actually gets where it's supposed to get.
For any military aid that's going to Israel right now, do you?
For most of my life, Mitch McConnell has been my senator. I lived in Kentucky until I was 27, 28, something like that. I've met Mitch McConnell numerous times when I was doing news in Kentucky. He's not all there. Like Mitch McConnell, like say what you want about him. He's an evil motherfucker. But he was on the ball. He was a very slick politician. Quite possibly one of the most effective. I'm sorry. Quite possibly one of the most effective politicians in the history of the country. Now that's sad because he is fucking evil. That's one of the reasons, like, I don't get why the right hates him so much, because he absolutely is the, like, Trump wouldn't have had an effective presidency in the eyes of the right-wingers if it hadn't been for Mitch McConnell. I'm sorry, clinically. But like the man was, I don't want to say charismatic. If you've never met a really good politician, usually when you meet them, you find like there's a reason why they're effective politicians. So it's wild, right? So a really good politician will make you feel like you're the only person in the room. Even you might be in a big crowd and everything. A lot of politicians will remember like you're like haven't met you but like once or twice, and they'll remember your name and they'll call you by your name. They'll look you in the eye, and they're fucking slick. That's the best way I could say it. And Mitch McConnell has that kind of je ne sais quoi, I guess you could say. I knew Robert Byrd. I actually have audio of him wishing me happy birthday. But I knew Byrd towards the end of his life, so he was kind of like McConnell now, diminished in his capacity. Like, this is an extremely diminished person that she is talking to.
You think there need to be strings attached?
Israel's our strongest ally in the world. We trust them, and we have a very tight relationship with them, both on the intelligence side and the military side. So I don't think the kind of oversight we're talking about for Ukraine, for example, would be necessary for Israel.
You know, to do all of these things, you need a partner in Congress. Senator Welch said you are the only Republican negotiator right now because of all the disarray in the House. How can you deliver on this at a time when you're saying it's essential?
Well, I hope we're going to have a speaker sometime soon.
Yeah.
Before November?
Doubt.
We need one. We need one because the House can't do anything without a speaker. And it's a problem, but I hope it's going to get solved pretty quickly.
Is there anyone in the House who can lead the Republicans?
Look, I'm not an expert on the House. I have my hands full here in the Senate, and we're going to do our job and hope the House can get functional here sometime soon.
There is no current U.S. ambassador to Israel right now. And some of your Republican colleagues have voiced concerns about President Biden's nominee. Do you have concerns about Jack Lew?
He is a very controversial nominee because of his relationship with the Iran nuclear deal, which was opposed by...
Wasn't he White House counsel to Obama? Am I mistaken, or do you have a different position?
Everybody in my party. And by the way, I hope that flirtation with Iran is finally over with regard to the nuclear deal. And Senator Cotton and I also have a bill to freeze the $6 billion that was on the way to the Iranian.
He was Secretary of the Treasury.
Hostage.
He was Secretary of the Treasury. Is it anti-Semitic to pick the former Secretary of the Treasury to be the ambassador to Israel? I'm going to assume that he's Jewish. I've not known Lou to be a Jewish name, but I'm going to assume that he's Jewish.
Release.
Well, it's in Qatar, and the White House says Iran hasn't been able to make any withdrawals from it.
Yeah, but we'd like to make it law so that it can't be undone. Look, I think we need to get tougher with Iran, and I do think the weakness of both the Obama administration and the Biden administration is the thought that somehow we could do business with Iran on something.
It says his family is Jewish. But how can your family be Jewish and you not be Jewish? Wikipedia, you're kind of confusing me. Father was a lawyer, came to the United States from Poland as a child, so he was persecuted Jewish person who came from Poland.
And I think it's pretty clear we can't. I mean, they're funding Hezbollah, Hamas, creating problems all over the Middle East, and we shouldn't be doing any business with them.
President Biden said he's going to hold Iran accountable. What do you think that means?
I think the proof will be, what are we going to do to hold them accountable?
Not a contrary. He's always been a piece of shit, but he was more personable. I don't want to say charismatic. I want to say personable. He was very good at communicating. He was an effective communicator. But he was always a piece of shit. Like, I can show you, like, one of his first campaigns, he's posing in front of a Confederate flag. But also, his wife is Chinese, so he can't be, like, completely racist.
And it's got to be credible. You can't, on the one hand, be negotiating with Iran on some kind of nuclear deal that you know they won't keep, and then turn around and declare that you're going to get tougher with Iran. I think, number one, quit talking to the Iranians about any kind of nuclear deal. Number two, don't give them the $6 billion.
It's theirs.
Three, back up the Israelis in every conceivable way after this attack by Iran-sponsored Hamas.
Has he blinked?
You oppose all diplomacy with Iran.
It's not a question of whether you ever talk to him or not, but it's a question what you do.
Yeah, okay, fair enough, Flash. Yeah, just because you have a Chinese wife, you can still be racist towards the Chinese. Fair enough. Resonate, good evening.
You do. And clearly, the nuclear deal that the Obama...
Also, get up with me, Resonate. Let me know, like, do you want me to come on with you? Would you like to come on with me? Would you possibly want to host the Freak Show with me sometime? Let me know. Get up with me somewhere where I'm going to see the message, please.
Administration agreed to, and
he's pumped full of something to get him through this interview, right? Like he's not all there. He's giving this interview in order to portray himself as still being effective, still being healthy and ready to go. He's got another 3 years in his term. He just won re-election a couple of years ago. Like, he's trying to instill confidence that he can still do the job. That's the purpose of this interview.
The Biden administration tried to connect. Is not the way to go. There's an axis of evil in the world: China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran. And we need to stand up to the axis of evil, not try to do business with them.
I want to ask you as well about the moment here in Washington that we are in.
Good times, bad times.
Including Representatives Miller Meeks, Ferguson, Bacon, Ken Buck have said just this week that they have had death threats against them. How concerned are you about violence against lawmakers working here?
Well, I think there have been more threats lately, and I am concerned about it.
Are you concerned about more political violence?
I also wonder how much, because there are edits in this. I wonder how much CBS cut. As a broadcaster, I can tell you they have cut this a lot. So you've got, and what we're seeing, he's struggling to get through his answers. So I imagine what it was like before editing.
Going into an election year here.
Look, I think since 9/11, and January 6th, we've had heightened security here at the Capitol. I'm sure we're a target for all kinds of evildoers, both in the United States and...
Evildoers!
People wonder about your health. How are you feeling? How are you doing?
I'm fine. I'm completely recovered and just fine.
You and your office...
I wouldn't doubt that he has had... Biden certainly has. So you see a lot of right-wingers mentioning that, like, Biden isn't the same person as he was a few years ago. Motherfuckers, he had a facelift. And I wouldn't doubt that Mitch McConnell's had some kind of a facelift because he's looking very smooth.
Completely recovered and just fine.
You and your office felt the need to share and disclose some of the details about your health because of some of these public incidents. And the doctor here said there was no evidence of Parkinson's disease or a stroke or a seizure. And I wonder, is there anything the public should know that wasn't disclosed?
I'm in good shape, completely recovered, and back on the job.
So does that mean that you think you are able to continue serving and you want to continue serving here at a time when we are talking about incredible dysfunction in Washington?
Blizzard transformation.
I think we ought to be talking about what we were talking about earlier rather than my health.
You've made clear you have a lot of policy disagreements with the former president, Donald Trump. Doesn't it trouble you that he is the front runner for the Republican nomination, given the questions he has raised about aid for Ukraine, for example?
I'm not going to comment on the various candidates for president on either side. I've got my hands full here in the Senate.
Former Secretary of Defense Gates told us this is one of the most dangerous moments that he has ever seen for our country. And we're talking about the basic functioning of our democracy being a problem right now. I'll ask you again, who can lead the Republican Party, not just in the House, but to deliver on the vision that you are laying out here?
Typically, it's the candidate for president when you have a presidential election who becomes obviously the most visible person in your party. And we don't know who that's going to be yet. In the meantime, we have divided government. We have a job to do. The election's not until next year. Dabbling in the presidential election.
Did you see how awkward that cut was? Media winch, good evening. That was... CBS put a lot on the floor with this. And I think to make Mitch look better.
In the meantime, we have divided government. We have a job to do. The election's not until next year. Dabbling in the presidential election is something I'm just not going to do. I don't think it's productive.
More of our interview with Republican leader McConnell will air.
He barely got through that, Winchy Poo. He was stumbling all over the place. He didn't glitch, and we're trying to assess, did he have was he hopped up on something? And also, I believe CBS edited it to make him look a lot better. Since he brought up the presidential nominees, I guess we'll go ahead and do this. There has been leaked audio that 60 Minutes Australia has put out. This is like fresh off the presses just a few hours ago of Donald Trump talking with an Australian billionaire. This is apparently going to give us some insight. This is why while Trump was still president.
Hardly an insult to say Donald Trump has a big mouth. It's a truth even his most ardent supporters acknowledge. For years, what he said has often caused trouble. 2 weeks ago, US media accused the former president of leaking classified information about America's submarine fleet to Australian billionaire Anthony Pratt. Trump denies any secrets were disclosed. But tonight, we have our own leak. In this joint investigation with the Sydney Morning Herald and The Age, 60 Minutes has obtained audio recordings of Anthony Pratt. They reveal the businessman's extraordinary dealings with Trump and a whole lot more. The Mar-a-Lago resort and private club in Palm Beach, Florida, oozes excess. For owner Donald Trump, it's the epitome of luxury, the perfect place to wine and dine business elites who share his views.
This country's blessed with entrepreneurial spirit.
People like Australian Anthony Pratt, who sits third on our rich list and joined the Ritzy Club in 2017.
God bless America, the greatest country on earth.
Pratt's worth $24 billion, so the $200,000 Mar-a-Lago membership fee was nothing. But the access it bought, a friendship with Trump, was priceless.
We're here to celebrate a great opening and a great gentleman, as you know, from Australia, Anthony Pratt.
In 2019, as the Australian billionaire expanded his cardboard packaging and recycling business.
Great opening is a weird way to refer to a vagina.
At a new paper mill in the US, then President Trump turned up and dialed in the charm.
Anthony is one of the most successful men in the world. Perhaps Australia's most successful man, as they say, right?
They might have been an unlikely pair.
Really?
Most observers, the relationship between Pratt and Trump was largely unremarkable.
They're unlikely pair? They're like, he looks like a fucking another version of Trump. What the hell? They look like they'd be bestest friends.
That is until 2 weeks ago, when the American ABC network reported something strange.
Former president shared potentially sensitive information about America's nuclear submarines while at Mar-a-Lago.
Donald Trump was accused of not being able to shut up in the months after he left the White House, allegedly disclosing classified information about America's nuclear submarine fleet to his Aussie friend.
In all, Pratt described what the former president had told him with at least 45 others.
And here's the wild thing is Trump has the better haircut. Never thought I'd say that.
Including 6 journalists, 11 of his company's employees, 10 Australian officials, and 3 former Australian prime ministers.
In typical fashion,
I ain't wrong.
Trump denied any wrongdoing. But tonight, there's a startling...
Yeah, good one, Flash.
So he's got this ability to say outrageous things. Non-stop.
We've obtained secret recordings which reveal what Anthony Pratt thought about Donald Trump during his tenure in the Oval Office and what Trump thought about the world.
He's outrageous. He just says whatever the he wants, and he loves to shock people.
It's clear from the tapes Pratt
that's obvious.
Loved to brag, and it seems no subject was off limits. Pratt describes a conversation he had with the president in late 2019, shortly after the commander-in-chief had ordered a military strike against Iraq.
I hadn't even heard it. It hadn't even been on the news yet. He said, I just bombed Iraq today.
According to Pratt, even after that, Trump wouldn't be quiet. He went on to repeat details of the private phone call he just had with a furious Iraqi leader.
He said, I just bombed Iraq today. And the president of Iraq called me up and said, you just leveled my city. And he said, and I said to him, okay, what are you going to do about it?
Are you surprised that Anthony Pratt got such access to President Trump?
I think Trump was trying to impress him. Well, you may be a billionaire, but I'm a multi-billionaire, and besides, I'm president, and I know things that you don't. I do think that's very typical Trump behavior.
Donald Trump's former national security advisor,
fuck John Bolton,
is disappointed but not surprised. His old boss might have shared non-public information about military action or the private response from Iraq's leader. But he says it was stupid and potentially dangerous.
Well, if the disclosure is after the event has taken place, nonetheless, there may still be operational reasons as pilots or personnel on the ground get out of danger. And that's why the announcement of military strikes often is delayed for some period of time so that we can be sure that those who carried it out are back safe home.
In another conversation, Pratt says Trump told him about an infamous phone call he made to the leader of Ukraine. He wanted President Zelensky to investigate the foreign business dealings of Joe Biden's son Hunter in the hope of causing harm to his political rival. Trump's boast was that he could and should have been much tougher.
Yeah, and Trump said, you know, that Ukraine phone call, that was nothing compared to what I usually do. And he said, that Ukraine phone call, that's nothing compared to what we usually talk about.
So who is this Australian businessman? He's billionaire and, oh my Lord. It looks like they made his hair out of Trump's face and Trump's hair out of his face.
When the stories alleging Trump had leaked classified information to Pratt were first broadcast a few weeks ago,
always be trolling.
Were ridiculed.
Authorities were afraid that Pratt might...
And fucking Stephen Colbert is gonna claim my fucking show.
Someone else. He told some 45 else.
But John Bolton says it's the former president, often disparagingly known as the leaker-in-chief.
Hunter fucks.
Responsible.
Trump doesn't have a filter between his brain and his mouth, and so the concern that he would reveal classified information to a foreigner, even an ally, but a private citizen, struck many people as entirely believable.
Disclosing detailed conversations with foreign leaders to an Australian billionaire, could that ever be appropriate?
Well, the president can basically say whatever he wants to anybody and can declassify classified information. It's a question not so much of illegality as of prudence and competence.
And they're jealous of Hunter's hog.
I think when you add all of that up over a 4-year period, it could be very substantially damaging.
For such supposedly good buddies, though, the secret recordings we've uncovered reveal frustrations in the relationship. On the tapes, Anthony Pratt admires Trump's ruthlessness while savaging his ethics.
He knows exactly what to say.
And let's make it perfectly clear. They're like, the recordings we obtain know that this motherfucker, this Pratt dude, gave to you. They didn't just get leaked. He obviously gave it to the press to fuck Trump over. And he was recording our president. Oh my God. This is insane. It's all insane. Fuck everybody involved in this.
It could be very substantially damaging.
For such supposedly good buddies, though, the secret recordings we've uncovered reveal frustrations in the relationship. On the tapes, Anthony Pratt admires Trump's ruthlessness while savaging his ethics.
He knows exactly what to say and what not to say so that he avoids jail, but gets so close to it that it looks to everyone like he's breaking the law. Like, he won't go up to someone and say, I want you to kill someone. He'll send someone to tell someone to kill someone.
Trump has long been a show-off, but if Pratt is to be believed, he often took things too far when it came to his wife, Melania.
Melania, who was sitting next to him at dinner, he said, I asked Melania to walk around the pool in a bikini so all the other guys could get a look at what they were missing. Then Melania said back to him, I'll do that when you walk around with me in your bikini.
It certainly confirms for us and reminds us that Donald Trump is quite happy to demean his own wife in front of other people. And is that the character that you really want in your next president?
Political and international editor at the Sydney Morning Herald, Peter Harcher, says with Donald Trump running again for president, the Pratt tapes could play a role in the debate about...
Do
you think releasing the audio of this tape is in the public interest?
Absolutely.
Why?
It isn't gonna make a lick of difference. The Access Hollywood tape didn't make any fucking difference. Everything that he's been fucking recorded saying in public didn't make a fucking difference. This tape, fucking in America, as a U.S. citizen, I assure you, ain't nobody gonna even fucking know this exists. Fuck all the way off.
Because it's in the public interest to know what the former US president, potential future US president once again, how he conducts himself, his relationships with business people, his relationship with a particular Australian business person.
I think those of us who believe in the Constitution, believe that Trump is an aberration, a departure, a unique departure that we hope never comes again.
There's strong words from John Bolton, but they ignore Donald Trump's massive support in the United States. It's a following that's fueled by people like Rudy Giuliani.
Wow!
who, as you'll see, is another controversial American. Anthony Pratt has been trying to impress. You're laughing. Why the reaction?
Well, it's a reaction of dismay, really.
Make America great again.
During Donald Trump's tumultuous years as the commander-in-chief, one of his biggest supporters was Rudy Giuliani.
I don't know what you need to wake you up.
The larger-than-life former mayor of New York was Trump's personal lawyer.
Wow!
Not surprisingly, Australian billionaire Anthony Pratt cultivated a friendship with the Speaker-in-Chief. In early 2020, Giuliani was invited to be a special guest at Pratt's 60th birthday in Melbourne. And to ease the pain of a long trip, he was made an offer he couldn't refuse.
Cut a long story short, I paid him about $1 million to come out like as a celebrity guest, and didn't happen, so now he rings me once a week.
Secret tape recordings we've obtained reveal COVID spoiled Anthony Pratt's birthday wish. The normally serious former National Security Advisor, John Bolton, finds the whole story bemusing. Mr. Pratt has boasted about paying Rudy Giuliani near $1 million to appear at his birthday party. You're laughing. Why the reaction?
Well, it's a reaction of dismay, really. Not surprising, but it's just hard to describe. Number one, that anybody would.
We live in a world where people are dying without health care. Teeth rotting out of people's heads because they can't afford to go to the dentist. And this motherfucker's got $1 million to pay Rudy Giuliani just to show up at his birthday. Why would you even do that? Why would you care if Rudy Giuliani was... The whole thing is absurd. The fuck kind of world do we live in?
Would offer something like that, and maybe too, not so surprising, Rudy would take it, but not appropriate for a friend of the president to be doing that, because that subjects the president to the accusation that his advisors, even though they're in the private sector, are being paid for access to him as president.
Thank you. What makes these tape recordings all the more remarkable is they provide clues about the way Anthony Pratt wields influence.
What Carrot Top's gonna look like when he's old?
He's someone that I hope will be useful one day. Plus, I just think he's cool. It's not all just sort of like seat of the pants shit. I think that him and Rudy are like that, and they're plotting all this out.
But Pratt's not stupid.
He thinks he's cool
in his dealings with Trump and Giuliani.
All of these guys are like the mafia. Trump, Rupert, Rudy. You want to be a customer, not a competitor.
This comparison to the mafia, though, I mean, it's an extraordinary line. Is there a ring of truth to it?
Well, I think Trump often talks like a mafioso in the sense of, he doesn't commit extortion. He says, nice little business you got here. It'd be a shame if anything happened to it.
The secret recordings show Anthony Pratt's web of influence isn't confined to the United States. The billionaire has long been known to donate to King Charles's charities. But what's less known...
Charlie boy.
What I'm trying to do is to network with people that can be useful.
This is Pratt candidly explaining his relationship with the soon-to-be king. It's unclear, however, who bows to whom.
Prince Charles said, when he introduced me to Camilla, he's been very useful. And I thought, well, that's an insult. But then I thought, oh no, it's in being irrelevant. My superpower is that I'm rich. So I'm useful to him, right? I see him as an undervalued political stock because he's about to be king. It's just that he's a laughing stock now. But when he's king, they won't be laughing.
No, we're still laughing at him.
Back in Australia, Anthony Pratt has also worked hard cultivating political heavyweights. Internal company documents list consultant payments to ex-Prime Minister Paul Keating of $25,000 a month and to former PM Tony Abbott of $8,000 a month. Mr. Keating told us his decade-long stint as a consultant for Pratt was no secret.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised this dude was on Epstein Island.
Picture international issues. Mr. Abbott...
Frequent flyer, probably.
Yeah, at the heart of this, we need to get money out of politics. Is that not right?
We need to keep it in check. We need to keep it in proportion.
International editor at the Sydney Morning Herald, Peter Harcher, says Pratt has done nothing wrong by trying to wield influence in Canberra, but he does worry about the perception it creates.
Well, it's not illegal. It's just questionable.
Immoral.
Throws into doubt in the public mind.
Unethical.
The trustworthiness of the entire system.
Yes.
We know that trust in Australian politicians and our political system has been in a long trend of decline. And it's precisely these sorts of cosy relationships where money is exchanged for access that makes people suspicious.
In the United States, it's been reported Anthony Pratt has spoken to the FBI and could be called to give evidence about Donald Trump's alleged mishandling of sensitive information. It's unknown, however, if Mr. Pratt was as effusive to the investigators about Trump as he was on the secret recordings.
And the last thing he said to me as I was getting out of the car of motorcading, "Don't worry, Anthony, America will protect Australia."
How do you see this tape playing into the US political debate in the near future?
It's simply more ammunition against a man known to be reckless and shows him once again. And remember, Donald Trump has denied any recklessness with national security. And yet here we have again a clear-cut example where he is reckless with foreign intelligence, foreign leaders, military operations to a foreign citizen in exchange for money.
Mr. Pratt posed as a friend and a supporter of Trump during his presidency. We now know a lot more about what Mr. Pratt really thinks about Mr. Trump. If your friends are describing you in such terms, what does that say?
I'm not sure it's fair to criticize Mr. Pratt for taking advantage of the opportunity that Trump presented.
That is.
Pretty sad commentary that Trump presented the opportunity.
That too.
And it's this kind of behavior that one by one, maybe it's like water eroding a rock, but we will get to the point where people, I think, do understand Trump is not fit to be president.
No. I mean, his supporters are locked in. There's nothing we can do about it. Like that's all there is to it. It's this election is going to be about turnout. Can we turn out enough of the people that think that Trump is a danger in order to defeat him? Because his support is going to be at maybe a little less than 2020 levels. But it's still rock solid, so... Republicans are like, I don't get it. Like, I had an argument with some people on the TPUSA page earlier today, and they're like, Trump 2024, blah, and it was like a post about Elon Musk talking about when truth is blah, 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 and I'm like, Elon Musk doesn't know shit about the truth. Fucking TPUSA doesn't know shit about the truth. You're all fucking Trump supporters. That's the most dishonest man ever to walk the planet. Upside down world. I hope you're right, Media Winch. And that is true that, like, overrepresented because how loud they are, but the polling shows he hasn't wavered much from his numbers in 2020. And remember, this is still scary. He got more votes than anybody else has ever gotten for president, other than Joe Biden beating him. He got more votes than Barack Obama. That is fucked up. He got more votes. Now, there's more people. You always expect there to be more votes because more people, the population grows. But still, he got more votes than Obama did in 2008. And Obama was popular. And we were coming off a very unpopular president. That blows my fucking mind. But, as I said the other day, with the Sidney Powell pleading guilty, he's kind of fucked in the legal realm. He's especially fucked after the news that we covered on Friday that Kenneth Cheesebro also pleading guilty. Cheesebro's attorney argued that Cheesebro never actually believed Trump's big lie of election fraud. Kenneth Cheesebro, one of former President Trump's 18 co-defendants in the Thank you, Hill. In the Georgia election fraud case, didn't truly believe the 2020 election was stolen, according to his attorney. Oh, do we actually have the video? Let's do that instead. Sorry. I tried to find video of
District
it.
Attorney Fonnie Willis's office and legal experts think that this signals that more are on the way. The latest domino to fall, Kenneth Cheesebro, who's been called the architect of the fake
Cheesebro,
pleading guilty yesterday on the eve of trial to one felony count of conspiracy to commit filing false documents. As a part of his plea deal, Cheesebro has agreed to provide evidence and testimony that could implicate other co-defendants, including former President Donald Trump. Cheesebro also must turn over documents to the DA's office to be in compliance with his probation. And as the lawyer for Trump in the Trump campaign, Cheesebro's documents include attorney-client communications that Donald Trump might not want jurors to see. Joining us now is Scott Grubman, attorney for Kenneth Cheesebro. Scott, man, I got to tell you, I watched you, Manny Aurora, fighting the good fight for your client for a while. At the 11th hour, though, literally, you guys take a plea deal, or your client does. Why? Why the 11th hour plea for Kenneth Cheesebro?
I would assume Sidney Powell pleading guilty. Like, she was the first domino to fall. Once she pleads guilty and becomes a state witness, like, they've got no defense. So I would assume the timing is not coincidental that Cheesebro pleaded guilty the day after Sidney Powell.
Well, first of all, Katie, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And look, that is often what happens in criminal cases like this, whether it's this case or just a run-of-the-mill case, which is, you file pretrial motions, you make the best arguments you can, you try to get the charges whittled down as much as you can. You try to put as much pressure on the district attorney and the prosecutor. And then, sometimes towards the end, when you're about to strike a jury, the reality sinks in, which is my future is going to be decided by 12 strangers. And sometimes that's a really sobering thought for a criminal defendant. And so I think oftentimes what happens is the closer you get to trial, the more a defendant thinks about plea deals. And this plea deal, Katie, in my opinion, was really just too good to say no to, because there's no jail time. And I think just as importantly, the RICO charge was dropped. And so I think it's important to note, Mr. Cheesebro did not plead guilty to RICO. Mr. Cheesebro pled guilty to conspiracy to commit the filing of false documents. And so while Mr. Cheesebro was ready for trial, we were ready for trial, this was the best outcome. He is now home with his family, and he could put this behind him.
Yeah, but Scott, I got to push back for a second.
He pled guilty to a felony, so he ain't practicing law anymore. Good. That is a favor to the world that he will not be practicing law.
No, you're not.
And is that Notorious B.I.G. behind him? Am I fucked up on that? Who is that a painting of?
Your client pled to a felony. The first one to have to plead to a felony thus far. And it's not just he pled to conspiracy to commit the filing of a false document. Let's dig a little bit deeper. I mean, he pled guilty, didn't plead no contest. He said, I am guilty of count 15 in the indictment, which implicates Donald Trump, Rudy Giuliani, John Eastman in a conspiracy to file a fake elector certificate, knowing that that was not true. So, I mean, your client may have gotten a probationary deal, but at this stage, he's admitted that the big lie was a lie and that everything that he was doing wasn't right.
So I'd like to push back respectfully a little bit on you, Katie. First of all, Mr. Chesborough never believed in the big lie. If you ask Mr. Chesborough today who won the 2020 presidential election, he would say Joe Biden. And you referred to him, I know you were quoting the district attorney's office and others, but you referred to him in the opening as the architect of the fake elector scheme. But I want to be clear about something. While yes, this is a felony he pled guilty to, it was the RICO that accused him of being the architect of the fake elector scheme. And I want to ask you and all your listeners, Katie, for one moment to think about this question.
It was Trump.
Mr. Chesborough was the architect of the fake elector scheme. If Mr. Chesborough was the architect of some plan to bring down democracy, which is what I've heard over and over for the last couple of months, both in court and out of court, would the district attorney of Fulton County have offered him probation and first offender status? I think the answer is no, and I think if you asked her, the answer would be no. And so while Mr. Chesborough did take responsibility for conspiracy to commit filing of false documents, I want to make something clear. He did not implicate anyone else. He implicated himself in that particular charge. And while he is required to go testify truthfully if he's called by the state, and Mr. Chesborough is a man of his word, and he will go testify truthfully if called by the state's going to have to decide at some point whether they think Mr. Chesborough's testimony will help them. And if they believe it will help them, well, they'll call him and he'll come testify. But also at the same time, Katie, I will say, if he's called by a defendant, he will come testify and testify truthfully.
Scott, now, listen, you and I have been doing this for a long time, right? Although I technically don't do it anymore. I do this. But your client gave a recorded proffer to the state of Georgia. And what did he say?
I'm not at liberty to say exactly what he said, but here's what I'm at liberty to say. Someone asked me earlier, if you were Donald Trump, would you be worried? And I could personally, honestly answer no. And it's not that Mr. Chesborough is trying to protect Donald Trump or anyone else. He's not. He's ready to move on with his life. But I was there in the proffer. Again, I'm not going to say what was said because it is a confidential proffer and that will probably get me in trouble. But I can say that I personally do not believe the state will call him to testify on their behalf. If they do, and if I'm wrong, Mr. Chesborough will be there. He'll testify truthfully. If I were the state, Scott, I would not call.
Scott, very quickly before I have to let you go, another thing that you said about being the
juicy
of the fake elector scheme, et cetera. Your client didn't just do legal memos. Your client was at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. He was accompanying Alex Jones and others. So it's more than just writing legal memos. It's doing it at the behest of someone else. And so maybe he thinks that he doesn't implicate Donald Trump. But you and I both know he wouldn't give a proffer that didn't have value to the state. The state wouldn't give that plea offer to your client unless there was something that was going to be able to help them with the other defendants.
I think the state gave a plea offer to our client because they really...
Yes, Dustin pointing out, like, apparently he did tell them, like, it was like 1 in 100 chance that it would work. That he did, like, he's not a dumb man, apparently. That was something that came out, like, he was like, this is an outside chance that this would ever happen.
We weren't ready, and I think that's why we filed the speedy trial demand. And that's why a lot of defendants do. But let me just say this. I disagree. He was not, I think you said, with Alex Jones. He was in D.C. on January 6th on business. He did see Alex Jones. He took a picture. I can absolutely promise you, he never met Alex Jones. He took a picture because he recognized them from TV. And let me say this. I have personally seen text messages, and so has the district attorney now, where on January 6th, when Mr. Chesborough found out about the horrible violence at the Capitol in Washington, D.C., he said how much he detested it. And he specifically said, and it's not now that he's sorry for what he did. This is on the day that it happened. He said, I wish there would have never been a rally. I really wish that these folks wouldn't have been violent because it really took away from what we, Ken Chesebro and others, were trying to do from a legal standpoint. And so
you're telling me that the day of, he made sure to text somebody that shit because he thought he might be in legal peril later down the road. Is that what you're saying to me, sir?
Mr. Chesebro detests the violence that happened at the Capitol. He was not part of it. He was not in the Capitol, and I want to make that clear.
Scott Grubman, it's good to see you. I'll see you soon when your client testifies at trial in Atlanta. I'll see you. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Oh, Katie believes that Chesebro will indeed testify. I don't think she was buying what he was shoveling. So Chesebro, the second lawyer to plead guilty in this case, but apparently the first lawyer, Sidney Powell, Trump didn't know her. She never worked for him. Trump says she was not my attorney and never was. Oh my God. It took a few days, but Donald Trump finally got around to addressing news that Sidney Powell accepted a plea deal in the Georgia racketeering case on Sunday morning in a Truth Social post, where he once again misspelled stolen. He insisted Miss Powell was not my attorney and never was. He wrote, Sidney Powell was one of millions and millions of people who thought, and in ever-increasing numbers still think, correctly, and the 2020 presidential election was rigged and stolen, and our country is being absolutely destroyed because of it. Despite the fake news reports to the contrary, and without even reaching out to ask the Trump campaign, Miss Powell was not my attorney and never was. In fact, she would have been conflicted. Miss Powell did a valiant job of representing a very unfairly treated and governmentally abused Mike Flynn, but to no avail. His prosecution to fight the facts was ruthless. He was an innocent man. Much like many other innocent people who are being persecuted by this now fascist government of ours, and I was honored to give him a full pardon. Fair enough, Dustin. He probably didn't pay her. And that's probably one of the reasons why she was so quick to flip. She thought she was going to be helping her career, and she got fucking nothing out of it other than a lawsuit from Dominion accusing her of defamation. Oh, god damn. Couldn't happen to nicer people. Speaking of 2024 presidential candidates, I'm getting ready to show you a picture of former Vice President Mike Pence speaking to a crowd of maybe a dozen. This is Betty Bowers saying he's married to almost a tenth of his audience. Also, apparently, he's incredibly anti-Semitic because there is a octopus plushie behind him. As I understand it, that is anti-Semitic. Oh, what a fantastic meme. We just want our prescription filled. Look at them. They weren't high enough for this bullshit. This dude's asleep back here. I told him at the time, I told him on January 6th, if you want to be president, motherfucker, and you clearly do, you missed your chance. The 25th Amendment and getting Donald Trump out of office was the only chance you ever had of being president. It would have only been for a few days, but you could have been president. You missed out, Mike Pence. You stupid motherfucker. Because in the aftermath, the 2 or 3 days after January 6th, up until like January 10th, I think they could have pulled the 25th Amendment and removed him from office. There was the will to actually do that. And if Mike Pence had went along with it, you could have been president for 6, 7, 8 days. But no, I'm going to try to run in the 2024 presidential election. Yuck, yuck. What are you polling at now, Mike Pence? You still hovering around 1%? Speaking of unpopular assholes in the Republican Party, Jim Jordan officially out of the running for Speaker of the House.
The House of Representatives still without a speaker. Ohio Republican Representative Jim Jordan failing to get the votes needed to win the gavel during a third round of voting on the House floor.
And I think it's going to be incumbent upon, obviously, the caucus to decide, are we going to, kind of be grown-ups here and stop having these petty fights?
House Republicans then meeting behind closed doors, voting in a secret ballot to remove Jordan as their nominee for Speaker.
We need to come together and figure out who our Speaker is going to be.
Jordan supporters growing frustrated.
I think it was a mistake for the Republican conference to just walk away from arguably the most popular Republican in the Republican Party.
It's as swampy as swamp gets, and Jim Jordan deserved better than that.
Prior to Gates' remarks, the former Speaker with strong words for the Florida lawmaker.
The whole country, I think, would scream at Matt Gaetz right now. Remember, it was a crazy eights led by Matt Gaetz.
At least 7 Republicans have announced they're running for Speaker, including Majority Whip Tom Emmer.
Yeah. This is the all-star list here. Most of them I've never even heard of. Austin Scott, Jack Bergman, Pete Sessions, Mike Johnson, Kevin Hearn, Byron Donalds. I guess Tom Emmer is the most high profile of the bunch.
Tom Emmer, the number 3 Republican in the House, along with Representatives Byron Donalds, Kevin Hearn, Mike Johnson, and several others.
Was there anyone in your view that can get to 217?
No.
It's going to be tough because we are fractured.
No legislation can be brought to the House floor until a speaker is elected. That includes a massive $100 billion foreign aid package President Biden requested this week, which includes assistance for Israel and Ukraine.
We can't let petty, partisan, angry politics get in the way of our responsibilities as a great nation.
Jay O'Brien, ABC News, Washington.
Sure, pal, sure. So, I kind of doubt they're going to have a vote tomorrow. I wouldn't expect that. I would expect there to be more conferences. Look for a vote possibly on Tuesday or Wednesday, and I guess we'll go live and cover it if it happens, if and when it happens. I've got a major breaking story for you. This is going to shock the shit out of everybody in the audience. Do you know Congressman George Santos? He lied about something. Police saying he made up a story about his family being kidnapped by the Chinese. During a series of phone calls with a New York Times journalist, Representative George Santos claimed that his extended family was victimized by the Chinese Communist government, which was behind the brief kidnapping of his niece. According to a police official, that never happened. In an extensive piece for The Times, journalist Grace Ashford detailed a history of receiving calls from the embattled lawmaker at all hours, where he alternatively defended himself and complained about the turn his life has taken since entering Congress. One time claiming, "I literally threw my entire life into the toilet and flushed it to get elected." In the midst of those calls, he claimed that his niece had been abducted in Queens and hinted that the Chinese Communist government was possibly behind it. According to Ashford, Santos was complaining about the threats he faced when he confessed to her. I'll give you one story that nobody talks about. How his 5-year-old niece disappeared from a playground in Queens, only to be located 40 minutes later on a surveillance camera with 2 Chinese men. He said the incident was the subject of an active police investigation, implying heavily that it might have been in retaliation for his vocal stance against the Chinese Communist Party. So you think it was China, the journalist asked, with Santos reportedly replying, "Look, I don't want to go into conspiracy theory, but if the shoe fits, right?" Curious about the wild accusation, Ashford wrote, "There was one other question that was bothering me as well, his story about the Chinese Communist Party kidnapping. I reached out to a colleague with connections to law enforcement officials to learn more about the investigation. A high-ranking police official confirmed that officers had been called and had looked into the incident, but they found no evidence of Chinese Communist Party involvement or of any kidnapping at all. We found nothing at all to suggest it's true. I'd lean into, he made it up." Nola Meitzer, did I get that correct? Good evening. Welcome. If you are new here, my name is Justin Freakin. We cover the most absurd news and politics that the country and sometimes the world has to offer. I mainly focus on U.S. politics. If you're wondering my political persuasion, I can sum it up pretty easily. I'm on whatever team allows me to piss in Dan Crenshaw's open eye hole. Give me that eye pussy, sir. Right now, I think being a leftist, I'm most likely to piss in his eye hole. But that could change. You show me proof that libertarians will help me hold down Dan Crenshaw and piss in his eye pussy, I'll turn libertarian. I'm malleable. I have one goal in life and one goal only. And that is to piss in Dan Crenshaw's eye hole. But until then, I'm reading the news to people. Sunday through Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Day 100 of the Hollywood actors strike. No deal has been reached. Finding out what's next. While screenwriters are busy back at work, film and TV actors remain on picket lines, with the longest strike in their history hitting the 100-day mark on Saturday after talks broke off with the studios. Here's a look at where things stand. It was looking promising last weekend that they were going to come to a deal, but things fell apart. Hopes were high, and leaders of the Screen Actors Guild of American Federation of Television Radio Artists were cautiously optimistic when they resumed negotiations on the 2nd of October. The same group of chief executives from the biggest studios had made a major deal just over a week earlier with striking writers, whose leaders celebrated their gains on many issues actors are also fighting for: long-term pay, consistency of employment, and control over the use of artificial intelligence. But the actors' talks were tepid, with days off between sessions and no reports of progress. Then the studios abruptly ended discussions on October 11th, saying the actors' demands were exorbitantly expensive, and the two sides were too far apart to continue. Exorbitantly expensive sounds like the CEO's pay to me. We only met with him a couple of times on Monday, half a day on Wednesday, half a day on Friday. As according to Fran Dresser, who I actually have her remarks. Let's listen to what the nanny has to say. She is president of SAG-AFTRA currently.
Given us a proposal package. We worked for like 36 hours on it. We brought it back to them. We walked them through it, and they left, and then called a few hours later and said, we're breaking negotiations. So it's not only baffling, but wholly disappointing. I've never really met people that actually don't understand what negotiations mean. You know, I mean, why are you walking away from the table? To what end do you hope that that will accomplish anything? And actually, my members are more pumped up than ever. They feel so insulted by this, so degraded by this, and dishonored by this, that it's like, Fran, do not cave. They don't really want to negotiate. They just want us to like what they want us to like. They don't want to hear about it because they keep giving us this huge inflated number of how much they're spending on production and how much they're paying out to our union in salary. But it's all divided up amongst so many thousands of people that it doesn't add up to anything, except for our highest paying earners, which I have zero problem with. And we're fighting for them as well with AI. They're very concerned about their likeness, their essence of being. The thing that makes them a star is going to be ripped off, going to be turned into something that's hardly even recognizable.
Hell yeah. Thank you, Fran Drescher. Take some pages from the UAW. Playing hardball with the big three. I love it. Solidarity with workers. The Daily Wire, however, out here wanting to divide people, their culture war nonsense, apparently upset at SAG-AFTRA for issuing guidelines for Halloween costumes. Asked members to select generalized characters only. Daily Wire out here doing the hard news. As the SAG-AFTRA strike drags on, union leaders issued a statement to their members about Halloween costumes, urging them not to don any outfits which would promote struck Hollywood projects. Oh, seems reasonable. Don't you think? You don't want to give them any free promotion for projects that they might have coming out. Perfectly sane. The guidelines were created for members looking to celebrate Halloween this year while also staying in solidarity with the strike. The informative flyer shared to the SAG-AFTRA strike page on Wednesday said, choose costumes inspired by generalized characters and figures. Ghost, zombie, spider. They also recommend dressing up as characters from non-struck content like an animated TV show. Also said actors should not post photos of costumes inspired by struck content to social media because that would give the studios publicity. Some of the most popular costumes this year are Barbie and Wednesday Addams, but neither of those will be permitted with the proposed union guidelines. Actor Ryan Reynolds reacted to the flyer with a post on X writing, "I look forward to screaming scab at my 8-year-old all night. She's not in the union, but she needs to learn." That's fucking funny. Talks between the Actors Union and AMPTP are currently at a standstill. After meaningful conversations, it is clear that the gap between the AMPTP and SAG-AFTRA is too great. Conversations are no longer moving us in a productive direction, according to studio reps in a statement on October 12th. SAG-AFTRA reps accused the studios of using bully tactics and misrepresenting the negotiation details while talking to the press. Industry professionals were hoping that the recently ratified contract between the Writers Guild of America and the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers would spur a similar agreement with the actors, as both were on strike at the same time, but the past few weeks have not seen any progress towards a mutual agreement. I think that's a very good thing, and I would encourage you guys in the audience, if you're considering a costume this year, go with something that is a non-struck production. Don't be Spider-Man unless it's the video game Spider-Man. You can do that one. Studios are digging their own grave, though. Everything is moving towards streaming, right? This is the future. We're in the future over here on the streaming platform. Meanwhile, YouTube being criticized for not intervening earlier in a disgusting story where one of their biggest content creators, a woman by the name of Sniper Wolf. Well, I didn't even know who she was until a couple of weeks ago. Apparently, she is a gigantic piece of shit that just steals other people's content. Two YouTubers fought over a doxing accusation, and YouTube is being criticized for not intervening earlier. YouTube announced on Twitter that it would demonetize the creator after she posted a photo of a fellow YouTuber's house on her Instagram story. This is Sniper Wolf. Aaliyah Shalish. It's a YouTuber with over 34 million subscribers. How in the fuck? Dylan Burns got fully demonetized, and this was something we talked about on the Freak Show. You can't cover actual topics. You can't be monetized on YouTube and actually do hard news and have insightful commentary. That's why people are pushed towards reacting to stupid TikToks and doing videos about beef with other streamers and shit. If you try to have insightful commentary on shit that actually affects people, like war, Dylan Burns does a lot of. And this isn't a statement on a value statement on Dylan Burns' work. He covers a lot of the war in Ukraine. Has even been over there multiple times. Twitch is further broadening its simulcast rules. The live stream platform announced on Friday, as it shared at TwitchCon in Las Vegas, that streamers can now live broadcast streams onto even more platforms, YouTube and Kick, for example. That said, streamers with an agreement with Twitch that requires exclusivity won't be able to do so. We truly believe that Twitch is the best service to be a live, interactive Let me back on, please! Now, they have said that they are open to letting banned streamers back on and giving them a second chance. They just don't know what that mechanism is going to be. I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything to get fucking taken off in the first place. This news comes on the heels of Twitch bleeding big-name talent. On October 19th, Kick signed massively popular streamer and co-owner of the Fazee Clan Nick Merckx, have no clue who that is, in a 1-year contract worth roughly $10 million. This summer, the upstart company also signed Amaranth, Twitch's most popular female streamer and former pro Overwatch player XQC, the latter of whom Kick offered a 100... Yeah, when I made the joke about the octopus earlier, it was Greta Thunberg I was referring to, and I'm usually going to take her side in virtually anything. I highly doubt having a octopus plushie is a sign that you're anti-Semitic. XQC got a $100 million deal? I'm stunned that XQC got a $100 million deal. I'm kind of a little sickened by it. Apparently it was offered to him. Kick offered a $100 million deal. We don't know for how many years it was. This is not to mention talent that moved to YouTube. In the last 3 years, YouTube signed Valkyrie, Ludwig, Takuno. I don't know any of these people. Lily Pichu and more. Some of these streamers left in the wake of Twitch changing its revenue share split from 70-30 in favor of streamers to a 50-50 split. Forrester said this talent departure was not the motivator for the expanded simulcast policy, instead calling it community-driven and saying that it was an example for Twitch developers to demonstrate that they listen to creators' concerns and react to them when they can. Yeah, that's XQC is shady as fuck. I only know about him because of the guy that makes the fucking hilarious cartoons about everything. He made one on him. I probably wouldn't even know who the dude was if it wasn't for that. The most interesting part of the new guidelines might just be all the way at the bottom of the FAQ. Streamers who left Twitch now have a chance to become Twitch partners again. Per the guidelines, Twitch partners whose previous agreements were terminated because they left for another service and they notified Twitch beforehand, thus not violating the agreement, will be eligible to reinstate their partnership status. Twitch also seems to finally be acknowledging the value of cross-platform discovery. In August, Twitch updated its simulcast guidelines to include TikTok and Instagram. During TwitchCon, streamers told Polygon that TikTok had become a vital way to draw in new fans. TikTok's short video format basically functions like a highlight reel for Twitch streamers to post their funniest moments. Being able to curate the highlights from your stream and feeding that into the TikTok algorithm is your chance for an entirely new audience to see you, according to streamer Alex Labatt, who told Polygon in anticipation of TwitchCon. And earlier this month, Twitch introduced its own short video feature, Stories. That's a fucking punch in the gut, man. I was happy with my $300 or $400 a month I was making on Twitch. A dog named Peanut Butter is set to become the first ever canine speedrunner at AGDQ 2024. The game Peanut Butter will be speedrunning at AGDQ 2024 is Gyromite, not Zelda 2, as several outlets had reported. Prepare for a gaming event like no other, as a four-legged contender is all set to dash into the spotlight at Awesome Games Done Quick 2024, making history as the first dog to compete in a speed run of a video game. Are you ready to check out this dog's skills?
Last summer, a dog learned to speed run. And this January, he's gonna do it again. As long as he's not too distracted and he gets a good treat. Awesome Games Done Quick has had speedrunners from all walks of life, from various countries, but GDQ has never had a doge perform on the big stage. Until now. Don't miss this historic event as Peanut Butter, the Shiba, becomes the first doggo to ever perform at Games Done Quick. When JSR lets the dogs out this January, we can all say with certainty, this has never happened before. See you there for some frame-perfect action at Awesome Games Done Quick 2024.
How fucking cute!
Last summer, a dog learned to speed run. And this January, he's gonna do it again. As long as he's not too distracted and he gets a good treat. Awesome Games Done Quick has had speedrunners from all walks of life, from various countries, but GDQ has never had a doge perform on the big stage. Until now. Don't miss this historic event as Peanut Butter, the Shiba, becomes the first doggo to ever perform at Games Done Quick. When JSR lets the dogs out this January, we can all say with certainty, this has never happened before. See you there for some frame-perfect action at Awesome Games Done Quick 20. See you there for some...
Look at that face! Go ahead, light one up, tip one back. It's alright to have a little fun before you hit the sack. I'm JustinFREAKIN. We'll see you tomorrow night. Probably. If there's a house vote, I'll come on, I guess. But probably tomorrow night.